Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's 100% Metroid Fusion. In the last part we started off the game and then we got our mission to go down into the breeding environments because the X-Parasites had spread all the way down there. So let's head down the main elevator shaft. That ain't me. Oh, Jesus! No matter how old you were when you first saw that, you shat your pants. I know I did. Ah, shit, I guess this explosion's knocked out the elevator. Well, I guess we're not getting back up to the main deck for a bit then, so let's just head on down to Sector 1 and see what Adam has to say about all of this. Yo, computer, what you think? Yeah, pretty decently sized area. The main elevator leading to the access shaft has been severely damaged. It'll be totally unusable for some time, unfortunately. Some unknown agent is at work. Something very powerful. Certainly not human. I'll report when I know more. Now, listen closely. The X in Sector 1 have invaded the atmospheric stabilizers. They must want to alter the environment to their needs. They are already reproducing. Clear all 5 atmospheric stabilizers to stop them. Is your objective clear? Yep. Now get moving. And now we have access to Sector 1, which, as Adam told us last part, is a recreation of SR388's ecosystem. So, until the fan remake, probably close to a year ago at the time this gets uploaded, this was the last time we saw SR388 in any kind of way, in terms of like a gameplay. Because technically speaking, I believe SR388 appeared in a data log in Prime 1 or 2. And there's one of the atmospheric stabilizers. It has one of those little wall things I just destroyed blocking the way, which take 3 missiles in order to destroy it. Although, fun little fact, if you look at the scrap that's surrounding it, even though I just destroyed it, on the top left corner, there's actually a GameCube. Don't know why, but it's there. As for how those rooms work, you have to destroy the atmospheric stabilizer blocking thing, and then the door will unlock once the steam is actually, well, not steam, I guess, mist is out of your way. Also, down here is energy tank number 3. A lot of the enemies in here also recreate SR388 enemies, so you're going to see some familiar faces in here. As well as something a bit random for the area, but we'll get to that when we get to it. I still do not know why they have never made an actual remake of Metroid 2, though, because there's a market for that, I'd figure. If you want to destroy those things a bit more quickly, you want to be closer to them than I usually tend to be. Like being right in front of them, you could probably get 3 missiles out in the shortest amount of time possible, really. And I could potentially actually head to the bottom of that shaft I was just in to go get another missile tank early, but it's faster for me to get that a bit later on. It's one of the only cases where I don't go for something immediately. There's one other case, and it's because it wasn't in my damn checklist. And over here we have lava. Okay then. But we do want to go across here because there is a missile tank. Again, it is actually faster to get this later on because we will come back to Sector 1 way later in the game. But I want to get that now because why the hell not? I mean, no matter what, towards endgame, you're going to be going out of your way to get a lot of items anyway. But in my eyes, I don't really mind going for the more minor out-of-the-way stuff as I'm close to it. Instead of just saving it all for later when it is potentially faster. But that's just my playstyle. If you are the person who likes to speedrun a game more accurately, you can do it. Anyway, yeah, look at the top left of the thing that the weird gelatinous goo is in. There's a GameCube on it. I like little hidden stuff like that. Always have. In terms of items, though, here in Sector 1, there isn't that much. There are, I think, 3 missile tanks. Oh, keep that room in mind for way later, by the way. There, I think, are 3 missile tanks and an energy tank. Which, very little, surprisingly, but I'll take it. Speaking of which, though, we want to actually wait for the mist to clear and go through the top left instead of the bottom right, because doing so gets us another missile tank. Now, one thing I've always been a bit unclear with as to Fusion is, at least in universe, is how the hell do the BSL station staff get around this place? Because some of the jumps that you need to make require a decent chunk of athleticism. There's one area in particular where I have that question severely, but we'll save that for when it gets to it. Also, this is a one-way gate. As it would seem, you can only open it by shooting a little red light, and when you're on the other side of it, you can't shoot the red light until way later. And this is a room I have wasted time in many, many times, because as you can see, we got a lot of the glowing X-Parasites, which automatically reform somewhere else. I used to think you had to take them out in order to open the door, but no, you could just say completely, screw you, I'm going this way. Oh boy, another one of the doors. That means we're coming up on a boss fight. If you actually hit through the lower left door, that leads to another room that leads to a save point. But we need to get rid of these guys so we can actually access our next boss fight. And that is the rule of thumb. Whenever you see this guy, you're basically coming up on a boss fight. There's no other way around it. Either way, with him out of the way, let's go see what the boss fight for this area is. Hello? I see no one. Hey, it's Jozo statue. Sweet. Ow, you hurt me. What the hell? Well, next boss is the Elephant Bird, which is our first Beam Core X. They're a bit different in the fact that the only way you can damage them is when their little eye shows up. However, none of the Beam Core X's can figure out how platforms work. And because of that, you can cheese them like this every single time you come across one of those. And for beating him, we get the Charge Beam. Press and hold the button to charge. However, the Charge Beam is more than just that. First off, it's technically two shots layered on top of each other, in both the charged state and the non-charged state. But you may have noticed it there when I fired. When you release the charge shot, there's a little, like, wave of energy underneath your cannon. That charge, that little slash, is actually another damaging attack. And it does a lot of damage. I don't think it does exactly a charge shot's worth, but it does enough to kill a lot of enemies really quickly. So early on in the game, one of your best bets against enemies is to actually shoot a charge shot right next to them, because not only will the charge shot hurt them, but as will the little energy wave. In fact, I'm going to be taking advantage of that against this thing by pointing up at it, and whoop, whoop, and a 3, 4, and it's down faster than I would have had been if I went for the missile strategy. If you do want to take the missile strategy, you have to go around the room, though, and head over to where those blocks are. If I was a bit more accurate, I think I actually could have gotten that done in 3 shots, but oh well. But we're actually coming up on technically the introduction, for me at least, to this game's incarnation of the wall jump from Super Metroid. As with it was last time, jump towards the wall. The moment you make contact, press the opposite button, and or opposite direction rather, and the jump button. However, Fusion's is a bit odd in that it goes off at a set basic 45-degree angle. There's no way to really control it. You can't wall jump off a single wall like you could in Super. And I think you can only do a certain amount of wall jumps in a row, because I swear you can only make this chain of jumps if you start it from a specific position and grab onto that ledge. I'm not entirely sure about that, but it's not a very useful wall jump. In fact, I think this is the only time in the game you have to use it. At least in terms of actually having to go get an item. The other times there's usually a way around it, or you have other abilities that make it not necessary. Either way, all of the atmospheric stabilizers are now freed, so let's go back and talk to Adam, see what our next objective is. Because if you haven't figured out the way that this game works, that's how it does work. You do your objective in a sector, and you go to Adam, he gives you a new one, basically. It's because of this, though, that Metroid Fusion is actually one of the more linear titles in the series. Because you're constantly being told where to go, just not how to get there. And I would have an issue about that, but in this game it works because the game on the whole is still not linear enough to the point where you still have to figure out where to go, and there's still a lot of action in your way in the meantime. Atmospheric stabilizers online, but many X have already made it to the other sectors, it seems. In particular, Sector 2, the tropical habitat, shows abnormalities. I suspect the X entered this sector with the help of our unseen saboteur. He or it may be in Tro now. Samus, get over there. We need to put an end to this. Is your objective clear? Yep. Start moving. I'll brief you at the Tro navigation room. Okay then. Also, every sector, as we'll see, starts with a navigation room followed by a save room and then a recharge room. So you have very few opportunities where you can absolutely run out of stuff. As I listened to the briefing, my thoughts turned to Adam. The real Adam understood me well. He would end orders by saying, "Any objections, lady?" He knew I wouldn't disagree. That was just his way of noting our trust. I wonder if I can trust this computer, too. Also, fun fact, because of the little dialogue sections like that, until Other M, this was actually the most Samus spoke, even if it is just internal monologuing. Because the most we had from that in Super was the intro, and Metroid II, I think, had it in the manual, but that was about it. Either way, welcome to Sector 2. Every sector has its own little anagram, like TRO and SRX, but for the most part, I'm going to try and refer to them by their number, because I just find the anagrams kind of hard to say more often than not. And this is a much smaller area. I have learned the identity of our mystery saboteur. Samus, it's an X mimicking you. I have named it the SAX. I believe the SAX came from the capsule containing your infected suit parts. It used a power bomb to escape the quarantine bay. That explosion breached the capsules containing all the X that started this disaster. But the SAX is definitely our biggest worry right now. The SAX is mimicking you at full power. You can't face it. If you see the SAX, just run. Don't think about fighting. You are still very vulnerable to cold and unexpected side effects of the Metroid vaccine. Like Metroids, you can be frozen by an ice beam. Of course, the SAX is armed with the ice beam. Stay away. If you see it, just run. HQ says they have bomb data ready in the data room. Bombs will help you find a way out if the SAX traps you. The data room is here, but it's sealed by a level 1 hatch. You'll have to find the security room and release the level 1 locks. But for safety protocols, it's not marked on the map. You'll have to find it on your own, somehow, Samus. So first find the security room and unlock level 1 hatches, then go to the data room and get that bomb data. Is your objective clear? Sadly. Keep an eye out for the SAX. Well, I guess we have our major antagonist then. Great. Also, you may have heard it there, but I sometimes switch pronunciations of data and data, but that's just because I'm not sure if there's an actual difference between the two. I've heard data is the plural of data, but honestly, I don't care. I'll just say whatever the hell I feel like in the situation. Either way, to the left is where the data room is, but since we don't have level 1 locks unlocked, we have to find them first. However, thankfully, if you were looking at that map, there aren't many places it could be, because otherwise there's only 2 other paths for us to take. And one of them we can't get through because a monster blocks our path, because it's too tall. So let's head in this direction. Yeah, there's another level 1 lock. And there's a level 0 lock, connected to the same room. Hello, security room. Goodbye, level 1 locks. Level 1 security unlocked. Blue hatch is now active. For the most part, these are just to bar you off from getting to areas that are too hard for you at the point in time. Because one thing about Metroid Fusion is Samus is very weak to start. Not as weak as she was at the start of Metroid 1. Heck, she even starts with a full energy tank this time around and a long beam. But enemies in the early game, especially these bugs, will kick your ass. Like, that just did 45 damage to me. That's half a health bar. Ow. Take advantage of the charge shot and the little slash that appears underneath you when you use it. And they should go down fairly easily, but don't be too reckless here, people. Either way, let's go get the bomb data. Because, well, it's pretty easy to access now that we've gotten past level 1 locks. In fact, you can actually get to where the data room is, just the fact that the door itself is a level 1 lock. And bombs are used the exact same way they were in the original Metroid and every other game in the series. Go into a morph ball and press the attack button. You can use them to jump around a bit as usual, but it's not that decent to use because we'll have another way to jump with the morph ball fairly soon. By the way, let's head back to the navigation room. Jesus! Oh boy. That sounded like footsteps. Footsteps into an explosion means the SAX. Great. But first, let's head up here to get a missile tank. Nice. Oh! Well, you were busy, SAX. Now we can't get back that way. Great. Well, let's see if there's any other way through here. No door, but that looks to be a little hidden passageway here. That is not the hidden passageway I was expecting it to be. Use the save point to my right, by the way, if you're new to the game, because I really mean it when I say this part of the game is kind of annoyingly hard. In terms of just damage output. If you're used to the way the game controls, it's not that bad, but oh man, that first playthrough, man. That first playthrough. Also, we get a bit of an introduction to something new here. In certain parts of Metroid Fusion, you can bomb certain floors, and platforms like that will appear. That's mostly there so you can reach certain power-ups without having to have other upgrades. They're mostly, almost entirely here in Sector 2, actually. But take advantage of them when you see them. Like getting another missile tank. Something I found very odd when I did this playthrough is the way the missile tanks are interspersed. You get like 3/4, 4/5 of them in like the first half of the game, which is kind of surprising. At least with the way I played the game. If you're not going out of your way to get everything, you'll probably have about half the number I do at this point. But I find it very odd that they intersperse them so strangely. At least for my playstyle. The way I would probably design the game is that at any point in time when you enter an area, you can get like half of the items there. At least in terms of one specific set. Because missiles are such an important part of the gameplay, so you're probably going to be using them mostly during boss fights. At least in the first half, I suppose. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, that makes more sense. Because in the latter half of the game, there are more ways to deal with boss fights that aren't just missile firings. So that's probably why they did that. Missiles lose use throughout the later in the game. Huh, that's actually surprisingly smart. Also, those worms, the red ones are bad enough, but down here, there's a blue one who has a shitload more health. I would say at least 4 or 5 times as much. But dealing out the punishment to it is worth it because killing that guarantees a dropped red X-Parasite. So if you need a restore, there is one for it. It's basically a full restore too. Also, bomb this for one of the missile tanks I often actually forget that the game even has. This missile tank. And don't worry, we're not locked in. Just shoot the roof above you and you can find an exit. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 3, we'll be heading through the rest of Sector 2, and hopefully finding a way back to the navigation room in the process. See you guys then.